The Midnight Painter. Children in the cancer ward started healing faster after the mysterious paintings appeared. Doctors couldn't explain it. Then they found out their night security guard was the missing artist who once changed the world with his brush. St. Mary's Children's Hospital had always been a place where hope went to die. White walls, fluorescent lights, the smell of disinfectant that couldn't quite cover the scent of fear. Children arrived with bright eyes and left with shadows. Parents whispered prayers in empty corridors while doctors delivered news that shattered worlds. But something changed in the cancer ward 6 months ago. It started with Emma, 7 years old, stage 3 leukemia. She'd been in the hospital for 4 months, growing paler and smaller each day. Her parents had stopped talking about the future. Her doctors had started mentioning comfort care. Emma had given up asking when she could go home. Then, one morning, she woke up to magic. On the wall across from her bed, where yesterday there had been nothing but sterile white paint, now stood a magnificent dragon. Not the scary kind from nightmares. This dragon had kind eyes and silver scales that seemed to shimmer in the hospital lighting. Its wings were spread wide, as if protecting everything beneath them, and in its gentle claws it held a small girl who looked exactly like Emma, flying through clouds made of cotton candy and dreams. "Mommy," Emma whispered, her voice stronger than it had been in weeks. "Look what someone made for me." Her mother, Sarah, had been sleeping in the uncomfortable chair beside Emma's bed for months. She opened her eyes and gasped. The painting was extraordinary, professional quality, but more than that, it was filled with a love so deep it seemed to radiate from the wall. "I don't understand," Sarah said, touching the dragon's wing gently. "Who could have done this?" Emma smiled for the first time in months. Maybe it was the dragon fairy. The nurses were equally puzzled. No one had authorized artwork in the rooms. Hospital policy strictly forbade modifications to patient walls. But when Dr. Martinez, the head of pediatric oncology, came to see what the fuss was about, he made an unusual decision. "Leave it," he said quietly, watching Emma trace the dragon's outline with her finger. "If it makes her happy, leave it." That afternoon, Emma ate her entire lunch, not because the food tasted better, but because the dragon was watching and she wanted to be strong enough to fly with it someday. Word spread through the ward. Other children came to Emma's room to see the magical dragon. Parents whispered about miracles. And 3 days later, something incredible happened. Emma's latest blood test showed improvement. Not dramatic, but real, measurable improvement. Her white blood cell count had stabilized. Her appetite was returning. For the first time in months, Dr. Martinez allowed himself to feel cautiously optimistic. "Sometimes," he told Emma's parents, "we can't explain why certain patients respond better than others. The human spirit is a powerful medicine." But the mystery deepened when other paintings began appearing. 8-year-old Tyler, fighting brain cancer, woke up to find a rocket ship on his wall, soaring through a galaxy of friendly aliens who looked like the stuffed animals on his bedside table. 10-year-old Mia discovered an enchanted forest, where unicorns danced between trees that grew books instead of leaves. 5-year-old Jasper found himself depicted as a superhero, cape flowing behind him as he flew over a city where all the buildings were made of building blocks. Each painting was unique, personal, created specifically for the child who would wake up to find it. Each one seemed to understand something essential about that particular boy or girl, some secret dream or fear or hope that even their parents might not have known. And remarkably, impossibly, the children began healing faster. Before we continue, hit subscribe, like this video, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Because this story isn't just about art. It's about the mysterious ways that love can literally heal the broken places inside us. Dr. Martinez had been practicing pediatric oncology for 15 years. He'd seen remissions, he'd witnessed medical miracles, but what was happening in the cancer ward defied everything he understood about medicine. Children who had been listless and withdrawn were laughing again. Kids who had refused to eat were asking for seconds. Parents who had been preparing for goodbye were talking about birthday parties and Christmas presents. The common factor was the paintings. "We need to find out who's doing this," Dr. Martinez told the hospital administrator, Mrs. Chen. I need to understand what's happening here. Hospital security reviewed the footage from every camera in the building. For weeks, they found nothing. Whoever was creating these masterpieces was somehow avoiding detection completely. Then Marcus Williams, the night security guard, offered an idea. Maybe they're using the service corridors, he suggested during the staff meeting. There are blind spots in our camera coverage. Someone familiar with the building could move around undetected. Marcus had worked at St. Mary's for 6 years. Quiet, reliable, never missing a shift. He walked the hospital corridors from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., checking doors, monitoring systems, ensuring the building stayed safe while families slept. He was invisible in the way that security guards often are, part of the machinery that kept everything running. But Marcus Williams was hiding something. 30 years ago, he wasn't Marcus Williams at all. He was Marcus Rivera, the most celebrated artist of his generation. His paintings hung in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Louvre, private collections of billionaires who competed to own his work. At 28, he was already being compared to Picasso and Van Gogh. Art critics called him a once-in-a-lifetime talent. His paintings sold for millions before the paint was even dry. Marcus Rivera lived in a penthouse overlooking Central Park. He drove expensive cars, wore designer clothes, attended gallery openings where celebrities posed with his work. The art world revolved around him, and he basked in every moment of the attention. But Marcus Rivera's greatest masterpiece wasn't hanging in any gallery. She was 4 years old, with dark curls and paint-stained fingers, and she called him Daddy. Isabella Rivera was the light of Marcus's world. While he painted portraits of strangers and abstract concepts for wealthy collectors, Isabella painted stick-figure families and purple dogs on construction paper. While he attended formal dinner parties, Isabella sat in his studio, tongue poking out in concentration as she worked on her own important art projects. "Daddy, can you teach me to paint like you?" she'd asked one afternoon, standing on tiptoes to reach his easel. "Someday, Princess," Marcus had promised, too busy preparing for his next exhibition to stop and teach her. "When Daddy's not so busy, we'll paint together." Someday never came. Isabella was diagnosed with leukemia on a Tuesday in March, the same disease that was now affecting Emma and Tyler and the other children whose walls Marcus painted in secret. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd spent 30 years running from the place where his daughter died, only to end up working nights in a children's cancer ward. The treatments were aggressive. Isabella spent months in a hospital room, much like the ones Marcus now walked through every night. But this was 30 years ago, when pediatric cancer care was less advanced, when hope was harder to find, when children's hospital rooms were sterile white boxes, designed more for efficient medical care than healing spirits. Isabella had begged Marcus to paint something on her hospital room wall. Just a little butterfly, Daddy, or a flower, something pretty to look at. But Marcus was consumed with fear and anger. His hands shook every time he picked up a brush. The talent that had made him famous seemed to abandon him when his daughter needed it most. "The hospital won't allow it, Princess," he'd said, using rules as an excuse for his paralysis. "Maybe when you come home." Isabella never came home. She died on a Friday morning in October, holding Marcus's hand and asking one last time if he would paint something beautiful for her. Marcus promised he would, but it was too late. The light left her eyes before he could pick up a brush. The guilt destroyed him. Marcus Rivera, the art world's golden boy, never painted again. He couldn't bear to touch a brush that had failed the one person who mattered most. He sold his penthouse, gave away his paintings, and disappeared so completely that art historians still debated what happened to him. For 30 years, Marcus Williams lived in a one-bedroom apartment, working security jobs that kept him invisible and alone. He'd convinced himself that he deserved the emptiness, that a father who couldn't paint a butterfly for his dying daughter didn't deserve to create beauty for anyone else. But Isabella's ghost lived in every children's hospital corridor, and 6 months ago, walking past Emma's room and seeing her small, pale face in the dim light, something inside Marcus finally cracked open. That night, he went home and bought art supplies for the first time in 3 decades. His hands still remembered how to hold a brush. His heart still knew how to imagine magic. And at 3 a.m., while the hospital slept, Marcus Rivera returned from the dead to paint dragons for little girls who needed to believe in flying. Each painting was both a gift and a penance. Every child he painted for was Isabella, the daughter he'd failed to comfort in her final days. Every wall he transformed was an apology, 30 years too late. But the universe, it seemed, was ready to forgive him. The breakthrough came on a rainy Thursday night. Dr. Martinez had decided to stake out the cancer ward personally, determined to catch the mysterious artist in action. He hid in an empty room with a view of the hallway and waited. At 2:47 a.m., Marcus Williams appeared with a small bag of supplies. But he wasn't the shuffling security guard Dr. Martinez knew. This man moved with purpose, with an artist's confident stride. He entered the room of a new patient, a 6-year-old boy named David, who'd been admitted that afternoon with lymphoma. Dr. Martinez watched through the partially open door as Marcus transformed the sterile wall into a pirate ship sailing through stars. The security guard's hands moved with the skill of a master, creating details that would have taken most artists days to complete. But more than technical skill, there was love in every brushstroke, tenderness in every color choice. When Marcus finished, he stood back and looked at his work. In the soft light from the hospital corridor, Dr. Martinez saw tears streaming down the security guard's face. "This one's for you, Isabella," Marcus whispered to the painting. "This one's for all of them." Dr. Martinez stepped into the hallway. "Marcus?" Marcus turned, his eyes wide with the fear of being caught. "Dr. Martinez, I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't." "You're Marcus Rivera," Dr. Martinez said quietly. "The artist. You've been missing for 30 years. Marcus's shoulders sagged. "I'm nobody. I'm just the night security guard." "You're the man who's been healing my patients," Dr. Martinez said. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Emma's white cell count has improved by 40% since you painted her dragon. Tyler's tumor has shrunk. Mia hasn't had a seizure in 3 weeks." That can't be because of paintings, can't it?" Dr. Martinez stepped closer. "I've been a doctor for 15 years. I know what medicine can and can't do. But I also know that hope is real medicine, joy is real medicine, and you've been giving my patients both." They stood in silence, looking at the pirate ship that would greet little David when he woke up. "I had a daughter," Marcus said finally. "Isabella. She died in a hospital like this. I couldn't paint for her when she needed me to." Dr. Martinez nodded. "And now you're painting for all the daughters and sons who need you to." "It doesn't bring her back. No, but it saves them, and maybe that's how we honor the ones we've lost, by refusing to let anyone else die without magic on their walls." Marcus looked at the doctor with eyes that had been carrying grief for 30 years. "You're not going to report me? Report you? I'm going to ask you to expand the program." What happened next changed everything at St. Mary's Children's Hospital. Marcus Rivera came out of hiding, not as a celebrity returning to fame, but as a healer who'd found his true calling. The hospital created the Isabella Rivera Art Therapy Program, funding Marcus to paint murals throughout the pediatric wing. But more than that, Marcus began teaching. Children who were strong enough learned to paint alongside him. Parents discovered they could create beauty even when their worlds felt broken. Siblings found ways to contribute to their brother's or sister's healing journey. The cancer ward became known for its art. Medical journals published studies on the correlation between creative environments and patient outcomes. Other children's hospitals invited Marcus to share his methods. But Marcus never forgot that each painting was still an apology to Isabella, still a promise kept 30 years too late. 1 year after Dr. Martinez discovered his secret, Marcus stood in Emma's room. She was going home that afternoon, officially in remission, her dragon still watching over an empty bed. "Mr. Marcus," Emma said, tugging on his sleeve, "will you paint a dragon in my room at home?" Marcus knelt down to her level. "I think your room at home needs something different. Something that celebrates how brave you've been, how strong you've become." "What should it be?" Marcus smiled. "I think it should be a little girl who learned to fly with dragons, teaching other children that they can fly too." Emma's eyes lit up. "You mean paint me as the teacher?" "I mean paint you as the hero you've always been." That weekend, Marcus painted Emma's bedroom wall. Not a dragon this time, but Emma herself, cape flowing behind her, leading a group of children through the clouds toward a city where nobody ever got sick and everybody knew how to fly. When it was finished, Emma's mother Sarah pulled Marcus aside. "You saved her life," she said simply. Marcus shook his head. "She saved mine."
6 months later, Marcus received a package with no return address. Inside was a child's drawing of a butterfly, carefully colored inside the lines, signed with a shaky hand. "For Daddy, love, Isabella." Marcus knew it wasn't really from his daughter. Some other child, maybe a patient he'd painted for, had somehow learned Isabella's story and wanted to give him the picture his daughter never got to make. But as he hung the butterfly drawing above his easel in the hospital art room, Marcus chose to believe in magic. The same magic he painted on walls every night. The same magic that turned grief into healing, loss into love, endings into beginnings. Because sometimes the greatest art isn't created for galleries or collectors or critics. Sometimes it's painted on hospital walls at 3 a.m. by broken fathers who discover that the only way to heal themselves is to heal others. Marcus Rivera had been the most famous artist of his generation. Now he was something better. He was the father who painted dreams for children who needed to believe that morning would come. And in room after room, on wall after wall, Isabella Rivera lived on. Not as a memory of what was lost, but as a promise of what could be found. In every dragon, every spaceship, every magical forest, she was there, reminding her father that love doesn't end with death. It just finds new ways to create beauty in the darkest places. The last time Marcus saw Emma, she was 18 years old, graduating from high school with a full scholarship to art school. She'd been cancer-free for 10 years. In her graduation speech, she talked about a dragon who taught her to fly, and a security guard who showed her that even the darkest nights end with sunrise. Marcus sat in the back of the auditorium, crying proud tears for a daughter who wasn't his, but felt like his, for a girl who'd learned to paint hope on her own walls. After the ceremony, Emma found him in the crowd. "Mr. Marcus, I have something for you." She handed him a small painting, a butterfly, painted with the skill of a real artist but the love of the 4-year-old who had asked her daddy to paint something beautiful. From Isabella. "I thought she'd want you to have it." Marcus held the painting against his chest and understood, finally, that some promises are never too late to keep. Some love never dies. It just waits patiently in hospital corridors and children's eyes until we're brave enough to pick up a brush and paint our way back to hope.